John Bollinger with Premier Guitar. So today we're looking at a cool little bit of gear. This is the famed gray Ross Compressor. Bud Ross, who was the founder of Custom Amps, started his own line of effects back in early 1970, and it was under his own name, Ross. And this compressor, he made other things like this weirdo phaser distortion I'll talk a little bit about, but this is the one that really took off. It's been coveted by players. They go for the price of, $500 to $1,000 online. Players like Trey from Fish, his relationship with this compressor, at one point his fans were on message boards talking about how his tone had changed. What turns out his Ross compressor had died or whatever, was stolen or whatever. He didn't have one, so they put together this message board group that did a fundraiser to get him another Ross compressor. These things are kind of addictive, and if you got one, you kind of get hooked on it. So I'm not an engineer. I don't know anything about, how this stuff's made, but I know this pedal really well because I bought it in 1979 in 9th grade at my local music store, Hanson Music, for $40, which was a king's ransom at the time. It's like, that's like mowing 6 lawns. Anyway, here it is. So I've had this for 40 years, and it's running on 9 volts right now, which it often does. Although on different pedal boards, I will use the mini input power and put it to my normal power. So it's a pedal that I've had this long relationship with, and I'm totally hooked on. There's times that I've had to put it away for a year or two and just not play it because I was leaving it on all the time. All that to say, I know this thing well, let me show you some of the sounds. Now, this is my 1961 ES355, and this is my 64 Fender Vibroverb. And this pedal. So I've had this amp, I had a version of this. I had a 64 Vibroverb and this same pedal when I was a kid. So let me just show you some little bits about it. Here it is with it off. And you can see I've got it. It's giving me quite a bit of a boost, and it also boosts that reverb quite a bit. Now, ordinarily, when I'm running humbuckers, I have the sustain really low and the output up. So, kind of getting lost there for a minute, but you can see it just makes the instrument so just livens up your amp. Now, as you all know, compressors, their whole job is to make quiet bits louder and make things that are too loud quieter, and just kind of balance it out. That's why I bought this thing in the first place. My music teacher, my guitar teacher at the time at Hanson's, said, hey, this will kind of balance it out. I think it was formerly his and he was selling it on consignment or whatever. So I bought it there. But it really does have that. The downside though, if your sustain's up a little bit too high, and that's not particularly high, but say you're doing a blues thing. You kind of lose your subtlety when you turn it off. Put that on. humbuckers in particular, when you're doing something where you need to work dynamically, the compressor is not going to be your friend. But it does just really wake up your amp. Okay, let me give you a different instrument. Let's try this Strat. Strats are a way better fit for them. Although I do like it, I like it with humbuckers, but I think you get more variety with the Strat. So this is my old 55 Strat. It was refinned in the 60s, but it's a 55. So here it is straight in. So that's kind of the sweet spot setting for me with single coils. It's with the output straight out and the sustain kind of straight out this way. Now incidentally, if you own a MXR Dynacomp, you notice that these are reversed, so their outputs on that side and the sustains on that side. So the normal setting, or the most common setting I think on the Dynacomp, is to have both those lines, both these white lines stand on each other like that. And this is kind of the most common setting on that. But if you go the other way and really crank that sustain, really put it up, with a Strat, you get that great kind of funky thing when you turn off that verb. I mean, that's just so percussive. I mean, it sounds compressed, but that's kind of part of the charm. You know, like, I think, you know, even like on, like, no, I don't know if they were compressing it afterwards or at the amp, but man, that guitar, I think it's pretty close. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm sick of messing that up. but that tone and the way he gets all that sustain on a Strat, you know, Strats are not very sustain friendly, and you know, Ed King was just holding those notes forever. So like, and I'm not particularly loud. Right now my amp is on 2.5. Treble's up to 8. Bass is down quite a bit. Let me get a little more boost there. Balance 6, that sounds good. Now that is with a lot of sustain, but I don't really mind it. And it's great for, you know, that kind of country stuff. It's totally all about that. Let me give you another weirdo. Here's a different setting for a different instrument. This is a baritone. Compressors, particularly this one, works great with baritones or 12 strings because it's easy to kind of lose those notes with these. Just kind of makes everything pop. But it's just great for that. Sorry, I sound like a kid in a music store. I kind of forget what I'm doing when I'm playing this thing. It's so much fun. Okay, side note. So like I said, Ross had that 10-year run. Well, this is another Ross pedal I have from the same era. It's their phaser distortion. And I think they were, and as you can see, somewhere in the past 40 years, the rate had been ripped off. But my buddy Scott Simon bought this at the same store I bought the other one, and then he ended up giving it to me years ago. So, but the phaser on this is great. I mean, it's a really cool phaser. Now, here I'll show you another point. Like, you hear this instrument alone, I mean straight in, and then add the phaser. Phaser's almost subtle. When you put the compressor in, I mean, granted it's louder, but also there's just so much more complexity to that. You know, it's just... puts all that sparkle up top and makes stuff cut. So very cool. Okay, let me show you one last guitar. And this thing, it really works. It works great with P90s, but I like it with, right here I've got some mini humbuckers, and I love it with this thing. Now you might notice there's no LED on this or that. Interestingly enough, the Bud Ross is, I think it's his grandson, just started the company again, I think the last couple of years, reissuing these, and they have an LED on them. I don't know what they sound like. I don't know, but they look just like this, only with an LED. So, but back then that just wasn't fun. Again, that's staying higher than I normally have it. And if you just put the output all the way up, just everything's just happening. So that's the basics on this very cool pedal. While you're online, make sure you subscribe to the Premier Guitar YouTube channel, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that social media stuff. Have the magazine sent right to your house. I know I do. Okay, y'all, play on.